Hey, hello, my friends. It's Emily, and today we're going to be starting another reading vlog. I'm kind of in a thriller mood, and there were a couple of thrillers on my radar that specifically pertained to Easter. And since Easter is at the very end of March, I thought it would be fun to incorporate those thrillers. There will also be a couple of others that don't have anything to do with Easter, and I'm just in the mood for them, and I'm in the mood for some thrillers. I've been reading a lot of fantasy recently, which is great. One of my most read genre, not one of, is my most read genre, and it's my most read genre for a reason. I love it, but sometimes I want to switch things up a little bit, and so I'm just in the mood for some fun, fast-paced thrillers and just fun stories. And so let's go. Let's start. I'm actually halfway through my first book, and that is Not a Happy Family by Shari Lapena. The glare is going to be real bad here, isn't it? Anyway, this follows a family, not very happy, shockingly, and they have all gathered for Easter Sunday dinner, and it's the aftermath of that. So the parents are murdered that night, Sunday night, and is it Sunday? Whatever. Anyway, they're murdered after this Easter dinner with their kids, and so the police have come in. They're starting to investigate. There is a bit from the detective's perspective as well. Just, I know some people either really enjoy detective perspectives or really don't like them, but there is some from the detective's perspective as well in here. And you're also following their 3 children. So their oldest daughter is Catherine, who was hoping to get the house as part of the inheritance. She was hoping to get the house from her parents. Her siblings didn't particularly want the house. They would rather have some of the money instead of the house. And so she was hoping that that could be left to her at some point in the future. And during this Easter dinner, her parents mentioned that they were intending to sell the house. So she's not super happy. And their middle child is their son, Dan, I think his name is, and he had been expecting to take over the family business. Their father runs a robotics, I believe it is, company. They don't really go into a lot of detail about the company or the products or anything really to do with the company. We just know that Dan was hoping to take over the company, and his dad ended up selling the business to someone, and that really kind of screwed things up for his son as far as a lot of plans that he had made, some financial decisions he had made. He was kind of all in on this plan, and then it was taken out from under his feet, is kind of how he feels. And then their youngest daughter is kind of their wild child who is a bit of the black sheep of the family, does her own thing. She's an artist and has never really had the true support of her parents in that, but you know, she wants to do her own thing. And anyway, so there's some interesting dynamics here. And so it's their kids, most of their partners are at this dinner, and then there's also the house cleaner / the person who cooked this meal is someone who's been with the family since the children were very, very young, basically grew up and helped raise these kids, and she feels a lot of fondness for all 3 of these children. And so she used to be a live-in nanny when the kids were younger. She used to live in the house with them and be kind of a live-in nanny, maid, house cleaner, cook, just kind of all around help the household run kind of person. And so since the kids are grown, she spends less and less time in the house. She comes over a couple of times a week, but she still works for the family and, you know, comes over a couple of times a week to clean. She was the one who found the bodies of the 2 parents as she was coming in on her normal day to clean the house. And then that kind of kicks off the detectives coming and etc. And so the kids are finding this out. I'm about, say, between a quarter and a third of the way through, probably closer to, whatever. Anyway, somewhere in there. And we know that some of the children are hiding some things and are lying to the detectives about a couple of things and want their partners to also lie to the detectives to keep the story straight. And anyway, we're starting to find out some secrets and some things about what's going on. I'm intrigued. I'm definitely intrigued, and we'll see how that continues to go. But that's the first one on deck, and I'm super excited about all the books that I have lined up for this vlog. So I'll let you know when I'm further into Not a Happy. Woo, shook the camera there. I'll let you know when I'm further into Not a Happy Family. So I have finished Not a Happy Family by Shari Lapena and had a great time with the last part of this as well. The reveal of the killer was not at all a surprise, but I still enjoyed the ride getting there, some of the twists and turns, the secrets that the kids were keeping, some secrets that the housekeeper was keeping, and the occasional detective perspective. It mostly focuses on the kids, but just, I enjoyed the pacing. I enjoyed some of the reveals and twists and stuff. Again, not at all surprised by the end or who the killer was, but I did enjoy the last little bit as well. So I just had a fun time with this one and was kind of in the mood for, family murder mystery with some secrets. I have also finished The Housekeepers by Alex Hay, and this one is a historic heist story. So we're following a housekeeper who worked in this, I think, early 1900s English manor, like Downton Abbey kind of vibes here in terms of the setting. And our main character has been fired or dismissed from this house, and she's upset about it. She doesn't feel like she was fired for good cause. The patriarch of the house has recently passed away, and his daughter is trying to figure some things out and, is also in her mourning phase for her father. And she decides to throw a ball, which isn't something that some people in polite society thought she should do. And she wants to throw this ball, and she is trying to figure out how she can make sure that she can maintain control of the house and kind of take it over from her father and maintain things running. And she essentially is wanting to kind of start fresh with some of the staff, which is part of why some of the staff have been dismissed. They were her father's staff, and she kind of wants to establish herself as the head of the house and start fresh. So we have our main character who has been dismissed, and she gets in touch with some other people who have been dismissed or wronged by this family who worked in the house. And she also is working to get some funding, and she is hatching a plot to basically steal everything from this house, just clean it out. And she wants to do it at the most difficult possible time to do it, during this ball. And so it's just fun. It was just a lot of fun seeing her plan some things out, get some funding, prepare for this. I could have even gone with some more detail into the planning of this and the execution of kind of some of the nitty-gritty details of what was being done behind the scenes, because there were a lot of people who were needed to pull this off. And anyway, and so you're following some of these characters planning this. You're following some of their reasons and motivations and history with the house and why they might want to do something like this to the owners of the house. And it was just fun. It was just entertaining, a delightful romp of a time. And I needed to get this one returned to the library because since this is a newer one, it's one of the ones that you can only check out for 2 weeks and don't have renewals. So I need to get that back to the library, which is what I'm going to go do now. But wanted to make sure I did this check-in before I did that. I do have a couple more planned for this video, but I'm taking a quick pause to read some other stuff first, but I will get back to this one soon. So I've started another book for this vlog. So I'm working on The Husband's Secret by Liane Moriarty. And I can tell you exactly 42% of the way through. I'm also listening to the audiobook. And let me start with the synopsis and then I'll tell you why I specifically wanted to check what percent of the way I am through this book. So we're following a cast of characters. We're focusing on 3 characters in particular. There's one character who has found a letter as she was trying to find something else in their attic storage space. She finds this letter written by her husband to be opened in the event of his death, or like to be given to her when he dies. And she's like, well, that's interesting. Why is it in the attic as opposed to like with our solicitor who maybe could actually coordinate giving this to me once he's passed, you know, whenever that happens. And so she finds that really weird. She talks to him about it and he basically is very suspicious and kind of asking her not to read it, and is kind of brushing it off as, oh, it's just a silly thing I wrote a long time ago. It's just like a sentimental thing that I wrote after our first daughter was born. And she's like, well, then why would it be such a problem for me to read it? Anyway, so he's acting a little bit suspicious. He's on a work trip as she first found this letter. She decides not to read it towards the beginning. She decides not to read it and honor his wishes. We're also following another character whose husband has fallen in love with her cousin. The 3 of them own a business and have been very close for a long time. So she's reeling from that and decides to go move in to help her mother. Her mother's recently had an injury, and so she finds this as a good way to just kind of get away and escape for a while, help her mom. She brings their son with her, enrolls him in a local school just to keep him going in school while she's helping her mom and just kind of figuring out what to do as a next step. We're also following a character who is also kind of integrated into this community, and her daughter, you know, long before the story starts, was killed. And so, you know, it's many years later, but she's never really found answers to what happened. And her son and his wife are about to move to New York for a couple of years for a job opportunity and take their son, her grandson, with them. And so she's reeling from that because she's gonna miss hanging out with her grandson, and she also doesn't have the best relationship with her son and daughter-in-law, kind of in part as a result of everything that happened all that time ago with her daughter getting killed. And so we're introduced to kind of these setups. And the reason I know and wanted to check how far into the book I was because I am at the point where our first character decides to read the letter. That isn't a spoiler. The entire point on the back of the synopsis is that she does, in fact, eventually read the letter and, you know, have a secret revealed that wasn't supposed to be revealed while her husband was alive. Anyway, so like the fact that she reads it is not a spoiler. But I was curious how far into the book I was when she actually reads this letter, and it is 42% of the way into the book. So we've just gotten this reveal, this secret, and I'm definitely intrigued to see the ramifications and, you know, what's going to happen as a result of her finding out what's in this letter. So that's the update so far. Intrigued, excited to keep going, and I will let you know once I have read some more. So checking in because I have finished The Husband's Secret. This was definitely intriguing. It was fun, it was entertaining. I was in the mood for just a community drama, and that's what this was. It was fun to see how these characters' lives intersected, what they were learning about each other, what they were learning about their own past, what they were learning about people they thought they knew and trusted, and just secrets and things from the past coming up, and it was fun. I will flag that this was written in 2013, so a good minute ago, not that long ago, but a good minute ago, and there is quite a bit of fat phobic language in here that was a lot. Like, it was a lot. One of the characters knew someone who lost a lot of weight, and that this is central to their character. And they lost a lot of weight, and like now they're beautiful. You know what I mean? Like, it was a lot, and just the language that was used, I think, was just unnecessary. Just wanted to flag that. I don't think this will be one that I ever particularly want to reread. I'll probably put it back in a little free library and, move on with my life. But it was fun. It was fun, and it was what I wanted. And it did take place the week of Easter, so it was pretty fun to read it around this time. It was interesting, though, because what I hadn't put together was that it was the week of Easter and that the author is Australian and that the characters are Australian. And so Easter here is going into spring, Easter in Australia going into fall. And so it was just kind of funny to have the Easter references and be able to have some of that align with some things that are going on around here, and then have all of the fall references as well, and be like, oh right, this is an Australian author. But it was a good time. It was a good time. I have actually also read another thriller that I meant to talk about as I was in the middle, but I read it so quickly, and this weekend was actually pretty busy, and so there wasn't a ton of time, in part because I was at Easter lunch with Matt's family and just other stuff going on, so I didn't get a good chance to check in. But I did read The Last Word by Taylor Adams. Not a Easter thriller at all, but just one I was in the mood for and want to be able to return to the library. So I did get to this one and had so much fun with this one. This follows a character who wrote a 1-star review of a book, and the author asks our reviewer to take her review down. And she said, no, this is a platform for reviewers to review books, and if you publish your book and have it on platforms where people can review it, then people are going to review it, and that's part of what comes with publishing books. And so she's like, no, I'm not going to take it down. The intention of this space is for reviewers, it's not for authors. And anyway, and he continues to message and say, this is going to affect my sales and my livelihood. And anyway, so she's having this back and forth with the author. She is house sitting. There's basically a seasonal home that she is house sitting, and it's a kind of off season, so she's the one looking after this summer home when it's off season. And she is running away from something, and we get a little bit more detail about that as the book goes on. But she's running from something, or seems to, be going through a lot with her family. And she's basically just spending her time at this house reading books on her Kindle that are cheap or free, because that's that's where her mental space needs to be at that time. And so, she's read this book at the recommendation of her neighbor, and who recommended as kind of a joke that he didn't think would actually come to anything and didn't think that she would actually read it or finish it. And so, she's having this back and forth with the author. She is starting to suspect that someone is around the house, or maybe potentially even getting into the house. And so she's trying to figure out with the person who owns the house what's going on. Is this her not being in a great mental space? Is something going on? And so there's that going on where she thinks someone's getting into the house, or at least around the house. And she's also having some conversations with the neighbor. They're actually communicating back and forth with a message board. Anyway, so, that's kind of the setup, and things start to get more intense as it becomes more and more clear that there is potentially someone in and around this house, and, things start happening. I obviously don't want to go into too much detail, because it starts to get more intense very, very quickly. So that setup happens very quickly, and this really isn't at all a mystery. It's a survival thriller. Like, it's very clear what's going on from the beginning. We know the antagonist. We know some things that are going to be happening, and it's a matter of how she's getting out of certain situations or how she is going to survive. And especially being isolated and alone, and someone potentially threatening her. And so anyway, it was just so entertaining. And I haven't read Hairpin Bridge, but I have read No Exit, and had the same feelings about No Exit, where it was just engaging. I needed to know what happened next. There were different twists and reveals along the way, and some of them I saw coming. There's a couple of major ones in each of the books that I've read from him that I was expecting or saw coming, and then some that I definitely didn't. And I kind of like how he layers his reveals, or things that the characters find out throughout the story. And even if some things happen that you expect, they're kind of layered with other things that happen to kind of ultimately go in a direction that I at least wasn't expecting or didn't see coming. So it's fun to go for the ride. I was engaged. I was there, and just having a grand time trying to see what shenanigans would happen. And of course, stuff just continues to escalate as she is fighting for her life. So good times. I really enjoyed it. So that is the thriller vlog. Overall, a success, I think. And let me know if you've read any of these. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts, or if there are any that you would recommend based on these books and what I enjoyed about them. Would also absolutely love to hear that. So thank you so much for watching. I'll be sure to link my Instagram down below, and more information about how you can support the Black Lives Matter movement, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.